maintaining multiple shared repositories and all. How do we merge the shared repositories and all, we will discuss today. Okay, fine. Now let me do one thing first. Okay, yesterday we have created a shared repository, right? One or two shared repositories that we have created. Okay, so now first let us understand how we can associate the shared repository. Okay, so yesterday we have seen one thing. So to associate the shared repository, we can go to resources and associate repositories, and click on add. So okay, it will connect you to the shared repository, or so you just browse for the shared repository, and then you can select for which action you need to select the shared repository. I have total how many actions in this particular test? I have total 5 actions available in this particular test. Now this repository I want to use only for login, and I want only for maybe add lines to or header details of PO. Okay, login, add lines to PO, or just do it. Yes, only for these 2 actions I need the repository. Then for remaining 3 actions I don't need the repository. Then so what you need to do is you just go to associate repositories window, click on add repository, and browse for the repository where your repository is located, and then select it, and then select the list of actions for which actions you want to associate the shared repository. Then as soon as you do that, okay, so you can see the objects will be loaded, whatever the objects, right? Whatever the objects are there in that particular shared repository, you can see here. Okay, but these objects are read only. When you open in object repository window, those objects are read only. The reason because so those objects have been loaded from repository. If you see that shared repository, it's been loaded. Whatever the shared repository, if you see that path also, right? So the path, whatever the repository that we have selected, so this all the objects have been loaded. And if you look at this, okay, so this 1 minute, okay, so this is enabled, right? Yes, and if you are able to edit here, which should not be, yeah, so there was something wrong. So if you see that it's disabled, okay, you will not be able to do any modifications. So when you load the objects from shared repository, okay, when you have associated shared repository or the objects have been loaded from shared repository, these objects are read only in object repository window. Okay, you will not be able to do any modifications. Okay, now this is one way of associating the shared repository. Okay, now one more way of associating shared repository is shared repositories. Use repositories collection dot add. Repositories collection dot add. Okay, so this is another method. Then what you need to do is you need to provide the absolute path of the repository here. Okay, so this is the runtime method. This is the runtime method. Then I'm just using some message box to keep the breakpoint in the next line. But if you see that, okay, whenever I have used this method, if you open the object repository window, but object repository window is remain empty here, so no objects have been loaded. But I just used this method, right? Repositories collection dot add. Then as I told, this method is a runtime method. What does it mean? Runtime method means, okay, so that method will give the impact only when the script is being executed. Okay, only when the script is being executed. Okay, now what I'm doing is I'm just creeping the breakpoint at 4th line. Just want to observe this line. Okay, now let me run the code. Okay, So after executing the first line, then it will just stop at the fourth line. Okay, so first line has been executed, and see the object repository window now. If you see that whatever the object repository that we have specified here, if you look at that, the same object repository has been loaded into the script. Okay, so this is what repositories collection dot add method. Then if I stop the execution, once I stop the execution and go to the object repository window, you can see that object repository has become empty. So that means when you use repositories collection dot add method, shared object repository will be loaded during runtime, and it will be only runtime. Once the script is executed, then it will automatically unload the repository, whatever is loaded. Okay, only runtime it is. Remember this point. Okay, so this is another way. We will discuss about this little later in detail. Okay, how we can unassociate the shared repository, and you can still, okay, so shared repositories can be associated during runtime by using program. And there is one more way of using, associating the shared repository. There is something called AOM, automation object model, but I'm not going to tell it right now. AOM is completely a different concept that what we'll be having. So in AOM, generally what we do is we will access the API of the tool. In AOM, generally we access the API of the tool. API in a sense programming interface, all the features whatever we have in the UFT and all, right? So those features can be accessed through programs. Okay, and we can perform all these actions through external programs. That's called AOM. Okay, we will discuss about AOM little later, not now, but just for now, understand how the shared repositories can be associated. Two ways. One is go to resources and associate repositories, or other one is repositories collection dot add. Okay, both, or the same, right? Associate repositories. Okay, you can access by using not only here from resources menu. You can access associate repositories window from various places. How it can be is go to view, solution explorer, and select the action. You can see associate repository with action. Okay, so another way is go to solution explorer and right click on the action, click on associate repository with action, whatever the repository that you want to associate. That is also associate repositories only. Okay, so go to solution explorer and right click on the action and click on associate repository with action. Then there is one more way is, open test flow, right click on the action and go to action properties. Okay. So right click on the action and go to action properties. In the test flow, right click on the action and select action properties. And then can you see something called associated repositories here? Okay, so if you see that by default local repository is there, and just we have associated one repository just now. Okay, using solution explorer, the same repository you can see here. And then if you want to load one more repository, you can just load it. Okay, so another way of associating the shared repository is go to the test flow, right click on the action, and then go to associate repositories tab and then add that. Okay, and there is one more way is here, go to resources, go to object repository, and then from the tools menu in the repository, click on associate repositories. So this will bring the associate repositories window only. Okay, so go to resources, go to open object repository window, go to tools in the object repository window and click on associate repositories. But everywhere you are just invoking associate repositories only. But from the from solution explorer or from action properties, you can associate to individual action only. But when you invoke associate repositories window, then at a time you can associate to multiple actions. Okay, that is the difference. Now this is how generally we associate the shared object repository to a particular action. Okay, so this is important thing. Then there is one thing pending, the AOM I told, right? So we can associate the repositories through AOM. Then how you write AOM bundle, you will see later. Okay. Now next, whatever the repository that I have associated, remember that if you have associated the repository through associate repositories window, or if the repository is already been associated to the action, okay, using one of the settings whatever I told, you will not be able to use repositories collection dot add for same repository. Now whatever the repository I have given here, the same repository is already associated to the test. If you see that, okay, it's a same repository whatever you see here, right? Same repository it is. If you see, this is also Salesforce rep, but this is also Salesforce rep, right? So same repository has been associated. Okay, so you will not be able to know. Let me execute the script and see what happens. What's the error? The specified repository already been associated, right? So whatever the repository you are trying to associate here, then it is being already associated. It's been already associated. That's what it is. Okay. Now, so what we'll do is, how do we can modify the repository, shared repository? How we can modify a shared repository? When you open object repository window, then whatever the shared object repository that you have loaded, the objects which are loaded from shared repository or read only in repository window. Then to modify the shared repository, you have only one way. That is, okay, go to resources and open object repository manager. What is the use of object repository manager? Yesterday I told, to manage the shared repositories, like creating the repository or modifying the repository. Then yesterday we have already seen how we can create the shared repository. Okay, today what we have to see is how we can modify and how we can merge and all. Okay, we can work with. Now to modify the shared repository, whatever the shared repository it is, just go to file and open the repository, whatever the repository that you want to modify. Then I'm just modifying one of the shared repository, whatever we have here. So I'm just saying shared repository from shared repository exported. So that is a repository that which I need to modify. So modifying the shared repository in a sense, like adding new objects into the existing shared repository, or modifying some of the objects, updating the existing objects in the shared repository, or deleting the objects, like that. Okay, so all these are, you can rename. That's what, updating the existing objects, like adding properties or removing the properties or renaming. Now, okay, so even though I have opened, now I just opened the shared object repository from the repository manager, right? Let me do one thing. Okay. Fine. Okay, so now what we are discussing, how we can modify, right? So even though I have opened the shared repository, okay, so even though I have opened the shared repository through the object repository manager, but still if you look at that, the objects are not editable, right? Still objects are not being editable, right? Then still it is read only. To make it as editable, what you need to do is, can you see one button called enable editing here? Okay, so you need to click on enable editing. Let me repeat it, what exactly I have done. Okay, so just open the repository from repository manager, open the repository, and then Even though, okay, after opening the shared repository in object repository manager, still that object, that repository will be in read only, will be opened in read only mode, even though you have opened in repository manager. So to edit that, what you need to do is you just click on enable editing. Click on enable editing, and so that the objects will become editable. Now what you can do is you can just I'm trying to rename any of the object. I'll just saying it as EDT. Done. So whatever the change that you do here, right? Okay. So let me open object repository window here. So same object repository has been editable. Is it now? Okay. So I have associated a different repository here and opened a different repository. Let me do one thing. Let me delete this repository, and what is the location where we have created? This is in training, right? It's under training, and here. Okay, so this is the repository which I have associated. That now, right? So look, if you look at that, okay, so whatever the change that I have made here, okay, so what is the name of this repository? What is the name of this object? Okay, so EDT middle name. So whatever the change that I have done, that change is reflected here. And look, observe other objects. Now this object is employee ID, right? So employee ID. Now what I will do is I'll just go to the repository manager, then I will update employee ID as something. Okay, so EDT is transfer, it's an edit field. I'm just doing some naming convention here. Now I have done the change, and once you have done the change and save it, then if you look at repository, the object repository window, so then whatever the change that I have made, that change is automatically reflected here. So whatever the change you do to the shared repository, that change will be immediately reflected in the object repository index or in the actions wherever you have associated that particular shared repository. That means one-time change is impacting everywhere. Okay, so you don't need to reassociate. So whatever the change that you do, then the changes will be automatically reflected. See how many objects are there right now. Okay, so only few objects are there, right? Now let me do one thing. Let me open the application. Let me open our application. Let me open our application. Okay, and let me add a few of the objects here to this. Okay, so right now in the UFT, so these are the objects are there, right? Okay, in the object repository window, these are the objects are there because the same objects are there in the shared repository. Now what I'm doing is I'm going to add some other objects into this. Okay, so am I using okay, I'm adding a username. It is coming into username because creation was here. Then I'm adding password. I'm adding login. So 3 extra objects I have added. Now save this. As soon as I add here, then if you see that these objects have come here, right? So whatever the changes that you make to the shared repository, then those changes are automatically reflecting here. So wherever, not only in this particular repository, wherever you have associated this shared repository in for any action, okay, so the changes will be automatically reflected. So that's why I told one time change it is. If you do change once, then okay, so it will, the change will be automatically reflected everywhere wherever you have used that shared repository. You got what I'm saying here? Okay, so this is how generally we do the modifications to the repository. Shared repository. So use repositories collection data add. Yeah, obviously it will load the latest version of the shared repository always. Okay, every time. You got what I'm saying here? So this is how we update the shared repository, create the shared repository, associate the shared repository, and modifying the shared repository. Next, what we need to understand is merging the shared repository. Merging the shared repository. Then why do we need to merge the shared repositories? That is the first question. Is it so important? Okay, so when you ask me the same question, is it so important? Of course it is. It is very much necessary to merge the repositories. Why? Why it is necessary? Because, okay, generally what happens is, assume that, okay, in my project, or as per the defined process, I have to maintain only one shared repository at the end. Or what I have is, okay, probably my application is very huge, it's not a small application, very big application it is. Then okay, I have various modules in that. So since the application is very big, and I don't want to keep the object repository size very big. Okay, so that there is what I do is, I will break the object repositories into module wise. For one module, one repository. That's what, okay, I need to maintain. Now assume that, okay, let's take an ERP application. I have PTM, PTP, OTC, and finance. Generally, these are 4 different modules of an ERP. Okay, so then now every module is has got its own objects and all, and every module is a big modules there. Okay, a lot of functionalities and all will be there. Now, when I do this, okay, I need to maintain one shared repository for OTC, one repository for PTP and all. Okay, only one repository, no 2 repositories. Then, now what happened is, okay, for PTP, assume that 2 guys are working. Okay, so 2 guys are working, 2 team for PTP, 2 members, OTC 2 members, like that. Okay, 2 members are working. Now in this case, what exactly they have to do? Every day they have to, while writing the script, every day they need to add the objects to the repository, and then they have to write the script and all, right? Okay, now say for example these 2 are working. Okay, the person 1 and person 2. Now since, okay, I have maintained only, we are maintaining only one shared repository, right? We have one certain shared location. Okay, maybe it will be quality center, or if you are not maintaining quality center, we will be having a shared location where we maintain all our resource files like this. Okay, so now for PTP, one folder we have created. Inside that, in the repositories folder, I placed the shared repository, whatever the repository that I am using. So every day, whenever they are writing the scripts, to where these objects to be added to the same shared repository, right, wherever we have created. Okay, now in that case, generally what happens is, assume that first person has come. Okay, so started writing the script. Now he came across with some new objects, so he has to add the objects to the same shared repository. Then when he has to add the same objects to the shared repository, what he has to do? He has to open that shared repository in his system, and then he has to make it as enable, and then he should add the objects. Now at the same time, even person 2 also writing the scripts. When the person 2 is writing the scripts, then okay, he also came across with some objects. Then he also has to add the objects to the same shared repository, right? But the same repository is added to the, same repository is opened by first person. Getting what I'm saying? Then, so since, okay, first person is already opened that shared repository, for second person, it will be read only. So one shared repository cannot have 2 instances, editable instances. Okay, if the repository is already opened in another system for editing, then for remaining people, okay, it will be read only. They cannot edit it until unless he closes. But unfortunately, he keep getting the objects, then he will not be able to close it. So second person must wait till the first person closes the shared repository. Now only 2 people. Now assume that 3 people or 4 people are working on that. So if the first person is opened, what happens? The second or third person and all, for them it won't get opened. So other work, their work will be delayed, right? Their work will be delayed. This is one of the challenge when you are maintaining the shared repository. Now what needs to be done in this case? How we can manage without delay? So what we need to do is, okay, we have that in the shared location, one shared repository. But since everybody has to modify that, instead of directly modifying in the shared repository, what they do is every day morning they will copy it to their local system. So first person needs to modify. Then instead of modifying an original one, take the copy and paste it in his local system. Then second person has come, take a copy and paste it in second local system. And third person has come, take copy and paste it in his system. So we are taking the copies of it. Now whenever he wants to add the objects for today, and then he should not open the original one, whatever the copy to his local system, right? So open that copied version and do the updates. But at the end of the day, that shared repository, whatever is there in the location, shared location, original shared repository, that has to be up to date, right? So whatever the changes that he is doing to the copied version, that has to be reflected in the original repository. Same thing for person 2 and person 3 also. Getting what I am saying here? Now what happened is, since he copied the latest version in the morning, right? In the evening what he will do, all the objects whatever were there in the morning are there in the copied version. Along with that, new objects he added. So what he thinks is, let me overwrite whatever is already there. Just I will take this and I will overwrite. So existing objects are already there, and so whatever the changes that I have done new, then those changes also will be impacted. So what he did, he overwritten the original repository. Then what second person thought is, second person also thought same thing. Anyway, I copied in the morning only, and the objects whatever were there already in that repository, those are already there in this copied version also, and new objects also added. New objects also added. Then what happens? He will take that and he will paste there. While pasting, he will choose overwrite option. So what he is thinking actually, so the changes, whatever the objects were there already, those objects are already there. So along with that, new objects also there. So overwriting also won't give any impact. Third person also thinks the same. He also overwritten. Now what happens? Which repository will be there? Modified by third person. But the modifications whatever they done by first and second person will not be there. So tomorrow what happens is, the first person comes and he will take the repository from shared location. So he thought that it's updated one. Then he pasted in his local system and opened. Then he will start wondering. Why? Because whatever the modifications he has done yesterday, those are gone. Why? Because everybody choose to overwrite. Got what I am saying here? So this is what it is. When you do this, then so the objects whatever made by the changes whatever made by first and second person will be gone. Only third person's objects will be there in that. So what needs to be done in this case? So instead of overwriting, what he has to do is, the first person will send the repository to second person. Then instead of overwriting, what he will do is, he will merge the repository which is sent by first person and whatever the repository which he has got. So while merging, what happens? If the objects, whatever the objects are common in both, common will be there. The objects whatever or whatever are added by the first person, whatever the objects are added by second person, all these objects will be there along with the common objects. Then he will save that updated repository, merged one. Then that merged one will be sent to third person. Even third person, what he should do? Merge the repository which is sent by second person with the repository which he has got. So common objects will be there, and new objects from first repository, new objects from second repository will be added together. So that is the final one. This is the use of merging repositories. You got what I am saying? So now let us see how that merging can be done and what are all the challenges that you face while merging. Now to merge the repositories, what you need to do is go to Object Repository Manager. And in the Object Repository Manager window, go to Object Repository Manager. In Object Repository Manager window, go to Tools. It's a object repository merge tool. Select object repository merge tool. Okay, so this is the merge tool. This is the merge tool what you have. So remember that at a time you can merge only 2 repositories at a time. So what you have to do is, when you have 3 or 4 repositories, first you merge first and second, then you take the final one, then final one with third repository, and then again you will get the final one, and then that with fourth repository. So at a time only 2 repositories can be merged. Okay, now what you need to do is, here I'm just opening the repository merge tool. And you need to select the first repository where it is, here only, right? I'm selecting object repository exported, then object repository export and replace. So these 2 repositories I am selecting to merge. So select 2 shared repositories and click on OK. Now, okay. So whenever you merge that, right? So if you look at that, as that 11 unique objects added from primary file. Primary file is nothing but in the 2 repositories, the first repository. So what it says here? Okay, 11 unique objects added from primary file. So there are 11 new objects are there in the first repository. Then 8 unique objects are there added from secondary file. What does it mean? So 8 new objects added from second repository. Okay. Now 0 objects are identical. That means common objects. This is 0 objects are common objects. Okay. So it will just give you how many new objects are there from first file, how many new objects are there in second file, and how many common objects is added. Okay. Now this is quite common thing, but what exactly you need to understand here is, okay, this part. Okay. Now what is this exactly? Conflict. So whenever you merge the repositories, there are certain conflicts that you need to understand. You will get some conflicts. What are those conflicts exactly is, okay, let's say for example, I'm merging 2 repositories, first one and second person. Then the first person has got one kind of settings and second person has got one kind of settings, object identification settings. Both have got 2 different settings. Then both are following 2 different standards when they name the objects and all, changing the logical names, naming conventions and all. Both people are following, so 2 different standards. Now when they do like this, okay, 2 different standards in a sense, maybe object identification settings are different in both the systems, and naming conventions what they are doing are different from both the systems. Okay, so like that they are doing. Now whenever they do like this, right, what happens? Assume that, okay, so one save button has come in first person's repository, save button has come in second person's repository. But since both are followed 2 different standards, then what happened is, here first person, to identify, save is a web button, right? To identify the web button, he is using name property and he is using HTML ID property. But the second person, what he is using is probably he is using the name property or he is using some other property, not the same properties what the first person is using. Then, so in this case, while merging, what happens is, okay, your UFT will give the error saying that, okay, so there is one object with the same name, same button, but the properties are different here. But I'm not sure whether it is the same object or it's a different object. Why I'm not sure? Because logical name is given as same, but people are using different properties here. So because of those properties, I'm not able to judge whether it's a common object or it's a different object. So you have to tell me. This is one conflict. I found one object with same logical name, but properties are different. But other thing is, one more is, okay, this time he is also using name property, and he is also using HTML ID, name and HTML ID. Even second person also using the same properties, name and HTML ID. But due to some naming convention standards and all, he named the object as btn save. Logical name is changed to btn save. Logical name is updated. But second person kept the name as like just save only. So properties are same here, but both are followed two different naming conventions. Then again, this is one conflict that UFT will find. What is the conflict here is, okay, properties are same, but two different logical names. I don't know which name to be taken. Okay, so that could be a common object because properties and values are same. When the properties and values are same, then it will be the same object only. But only thing is, people followed two different naming conventions. I got confused here, which name should be taken. I have to take the name from first one, or I have to take the name from second one. So like this, whenever you are merging the repositories and all, then if people are following two different standards in both the repositories, then okay, you will get this kind of conflicts. Logical name is same, but properties are different, or properties are same, but logical names are different. So you can see three types of conflicts there. Okay, one is one different object with same name. That means logical name is same, but properties are different. That's okay. When that is the case, then you will get this conflict. And if you look at the second conflict, okay, when you look at the second conflict, what exactly it is? Yeah, identical description and different names. That means identical description is nothing but properties and values. Identical, that means common properties. Okay, so common properties and values they have got, but only thing is names are different. So when you have that kind of thing, then you will get that conflict. Then another one is, okay, similar description. So similar description in the sense here, okay, assume that this person is using name and HTML ID and HTML tag, three properties. But other person is using just HTML tag and HTML ID. HTML ID. Okay, so now what happens is, whatever the properties they are using, okay, so properties are, some of the properties are common, but one object repository has got some extra properties here. But whatever the properties are common in both the repositories, those properties are having the same values. Common properties are having same values. But due to the extra property, I am not able to judge whether it's the same object or not. So that's the reason what I am saying is, description is very similar in both. But I am not sure whether it's the same or not same. Then you judge me, or you judge saying, okay, which one is right here? The first object repository properties or second object properties, or both are two different objects. If you say that both are two different objects, then I will keep both in this repository, merged whatever I am merging now. Or if you say that okay, first repository I need to use, then I will take the properties from first repository. Or if you say that second repository is right, then I will take the second properties from second repository. This is what the conflict is. Okay, you must have to understand these conflicts. Now let us see what exactly the conflicts is. So second and third conflict is not giving any number there, it is saying 0. That means that conflicts have not come. But it says that okay, one different object with same name. So the first conflict has found some objects. Then let us see what exactly it is. It will automatically find why you are merging. Then that conflict here is okay for the browser. Whatever the object is highlighted in red. So that means that that object has got certain conflict. So this object is conflicting with this. Okay, why it is conflicting here? Let us understand. Here if you see number, right, 1, 2, what does it mean here? First repository and second repository, that's what it means there. Okay, now let us understand why exactly the conflict has come here. Okay, so what is the logical name here? Okay, same logical name. If you see that in the first repository also orange HRM, second repository also orange HRM. Now what is the property it is using? There is something called creation time. Okay, so creation time is one of the property that what we have for the browser object. So what is the value there? Type is creation time and value is 0. What it is here? It is 1, creation time, same property but have got a different value. So that's the reason it is saying logical name here, logical name is same in both the places, right? In both the places logical name is same, but properties are different here. So that is the reason what it is showing is same name but different description. Now if you look at the options here, okay, if you look at the options, what it is showing here, the first option, what it is giving is keep the object from primary file, keep the object from primary file and delete the other object. So that means that take the properties from first file. Then when I do that, when I select this option, then what happens is, okay, it will take this object only and it will eliminate this object. Whatever the childs are there in this particular object, right, these childs will be moved into first one. Okay, now the second option is keep the object from secondary file and delete other object. So that means that take the properties from second one. Okay, take the object from secondary one. Then keep both the objects. That means, okay, whatever is there now, keep both the objects. So when you say keep both the objects, since okay the logical name is same, then remember that no two test objects can have the same logical names under same hierarchy. It should be under same hierarchy. No two objects can have same logical name. Okay, so that's the reason what it is doing is for first object it is keeping it as an orange HRM only, whatever the logical name, original logical name it has got. But for second object it is naming it as orange HRM underscore 1. So when it finds the same logical name, then okay, this is what I am talking about. Okay, and here. Okay, so since logical name is same, it's just added as underscore 1. Got what I am saying here? So this is what conflict is. Now what I will do is I am selecting keep the object from first file. Then as soon as I select the first option, if you see that one more conflict has come. Okay, one more conflict because the childs of the second browser has moved into the first one. So when it moved, then again it found one more conflict for remaining objects. What that conflict is this time, what is the logical name it has got? EDT employee ID. What is the logical name it has got? Employee ID. Now, what are the properties it has got? Same properties. So what it says is, properties are same here. Properties are same, but logical name is different. Okay? Logical name is different. The conflict is same properties, same description, but different names. Then okay, so now what you have to do is, it says that third option is not giving this time. Say keep both the objects. Why it is not giving third option? Because when the properties are same, it will be this common object only. But only confusion here is from where the name has to be taken, logical name has to be taken. Then when you say take the name from primary file, then it will keep the name as EDT employee ID. When I select the second one, then if you see that, name has taken as second one. Similarly, this also. Same here, EDT middle name, and here middle name. And then properties are same. Now what I will do is take the file from primary file. If I keep this, if I select the primary file, then the name has taken from okay, so name has taken from first one. Okay, so if I take the second one, then the name has taken from second one. Right? So that's how it will find the conflict. So whenever you are merging the repositories, you must have to take care of this conflicts. This is one of the challenge, but very important to understand. You got these conflicts, and let's see, okay, so how exactly the similar conflict and all it will find. Then let me do one thing. I'm not merging it, okay, for now. So let me open the object repository manager and let open this exported creation time as 0 EDT employee ID. Then did it go, it has got the first name also, right? Let me open one more repository also. These two I will merge. Yeah. So it has also got the first name. Okay, so first name, what I will do is here HTML ID I am changing, and here it has got the same properties but values are different here. Same logical name, but I am just changing the property value in one of the repository. So what kind of conflict it has to give here? So same logical name but different description. That is what. Okay. So the last name also I have got, but this time what I will do is I'll give visible as true. So I'm adding one extra property here. I'm adding one extra property. So this should be similar description. It has to give us. Then another one is okay, edit employee ID and employee ID. Obviously properties are same but different logical name. Okay. So now let me do that. Let me merge the repositories again and see how the conflicts will come. Tools, object repository merge tool, and select the same repositories. Then, so what it says now is there are just a moment. The first one, different objects with the same name. So same name but properties are different. Okay. Now the second one is identical description. Properties are same but different logical name it has got. Then one test object with similar description. So that means descriptive properties are almost common, but one of the object has got some extra properties. It could be like that. Then now let me close it and take the first one. So wherever the conflict has come, so it will automatically go to the first conflict. Then what is this conflict exactly here is, what is the logical name here? First, okay, look at the properties. What are the properties it has got? Almost the same property values that we have got. Okay, so let us see the properties visible. Okay, so if you look at the properties, properties are same here, but when you look at the logical name is different, right? So this is conflict. Now what it is asking is, okay, from where you have to take the name, object, not file name, object name. Then I want to take the name from primary file, so it will keep it as ADT employee ID only. Now let us move to the second conflict. So when you say second conflict, then this time it is same properties but different logical name. So that again I am taking the primary file. Then first name. Okay. So when I select first name, logical name is same here, right? But look at the properties. Look at the properties here. So this name. So HTML ID in the first one it is first name, and in the second one it is just ME is missing here, right? So logical name is same but the property values are different. That's what it is. Got what I am saying here? So that conflict is same logical name but different description. Okay. So now what I am doing is, I am saying keep the object from or take the object from primary repository file. When I select this option, then okay, so it has taken only one object and properties will be taken from the first one. Then the second one, another, let me go to another conflict. So whatever is highlighted in red, okay, it will, that's nothing but conflict. Now last name. Then what this conflict exactly is, if you see the logical name, it's a last name. Logical name is same here, right? But sorry, if you look at the properties, in the first one it has got name and HTML. So name and HTML ID. But here name and HTML ID we have got, but visible property has come extra. So properties, some of the properties are common, but those common properties have got the same values. So it could be the same object, but one extra property they have given, one or more extra properties given in one of the repository. So because of those extra properties, it could be a different object. So I got confused here. I don't know, it's the same or it's a different, two different objects. Then what you need to do here is, you just have to select one option. You want to keep both objects, you can see it's added _1. Because it's the same logical name, so it cannot have the same logical name, it added as _1. Or when you say keep the object from first file, then it will take, which properties it will take? The first one. Then when you say second one, properties will be taken from second, these properties will be there. So like this it will automatically, you don't need to find the conflicts and all, you don't need to ask. As soon as you select two repositories, then it will automatically find the conflicts and then it will give you the options. But only thing is, you just have to remember what kind of conflicts that we get in interview. That is very important part. Okay, so when you are merging, what kind of conflicts that you get? When you will get the conflicts, what are the challenges? Challenges are when multiple people are maintaining the same, when you are maintaining only one repository and multiple team members are working in that, then okay, so updating the repositories and all will be challenging. Then for this, what you have done, okay, instead of maintaining directly in the first repository, in the original repository, on daily basis we'll copy to the local, okay, first, and then we will do the modifications in copied version in each system. Then at the end of the day, we will merge. So while merging, we find other challenges like, we may get the conflict because both the people might have followed different naming conventions, or both the people might have followed the different identification properties, might have given different identification properties. So conflicts will come. Okay, and one more conflict also will come here. Okay, that conflict is, it's not conflict, but it's another challenge. Now what happens is, assume that I'm maintaining only one shared repository, and some of the objects whatever I have stored in the shared repository, those objects we might have added those, used these objects in maybe 10 to 15 scripts or different. It's not only just 10 to 15, number of scripts we have used the same objects. But what happened is, okay, the first person or second person or third person, whoever, they are executing the scripts. While executing the scripts, then they realized that, in one of the screen, object properties are little different in one of the script. Okay, so it's not identifying the object. Then what happened is, what he did is, he went to the repository manager and he updated the properties. But what exactly the thing is here, those changes are only in that screen. But in different places, it has got the old properties only. Now, since he had made the change in the repository manager and to the shared repository directly, it will impact everywhere, right, wherever you have used that repository. So remaining places, that will get failed. So if you make the change in one place, he consider only in that screen. Just consider only in that screen. So properties have been updated. So he updated the properties. But in other places, the object has got old values only. So since it was, in other pages it was old value only, then script will fail there. It cannot identify the object because property value has been updated. This is another challenge when multiple people are maintaining, or when we are maintaining same shared repository, and if the objects are repeated in different screens, and if you update in one place, it will impact everywhere. So other places it may fail. So that's the reason what he has to do is, whenever you are updating a shared repository, right, you should not directly update. Okay, so first you need to consider where and all the properties have been changed. Okay, in other screens also we have used. Let me go to other place and see the same properties have come in other screen also. In case if it is not, Okay, if it is coming in only one place, only in that particular script that update is, not in other places, then how do you manage that? Okay, so we'll go to that part first. Okay, we will understand this, we'll complete this, and then I will move to that. Then what I'm doing is, now I'm updated everything, so I merged both the repositories and save it. Even whatever the repository that you are merging, right, that is also a shared repository, it will merge into another shared repository, that's it. Okay, now what I will do is, what is the repository name? I will just give it as final, save, done, close it. That's it. That's how you merge the repositories. When you are merging, you just have to take care of the conflicts that what you will get. Now if I open the repository, you could see all the objects from both the repositories. Okay, first name, we have added the properties from first repository, right? For first name you can see that. Okay, so last name we have added from second one, you could see the 3 properties have come here. So like that, so true, it should not be like this. I'm just changing the property. You will merge the repositories. Got how to merge the repositories and what kind of conflicts that you will get. Now let us come, okay, to another situation. See here, assume that save I've given like this. Okay, so her name is save and type is button, HTML tag is input, and HTML ID is btn save. Okay, and you don't get any conflict in this, but let me go into another way. Okay, let me create one more repository. Open object repository manager. This time what we will do, I'm opening the Salesforce application. I'm opening the Salesforce application, and what I'm doing here is, I'm adding username and password, and I'm adding login button. Okay, so I'm just changing the logical name here. Salesforce. Okay, so it's taken as creation time as 1, and let me modify the creation time as 0, and log into Salesforce. What are the objects that I'm using? Type, name, HTML tag, HTML ID. Okay, these 4 properties I'm using to identify the login button. Okay, so let me do one thing. Let me save this Salesforce underscore rep. Okay, so you can give any name there, repository name. Now what I'll do here, it's resources, associate repositories, this is the one, right? So I associated same repository. Now let me write this script here. Browser dot page dot web edit of username dot set. I'll give some junk username, so because I'm not doing any validation for now, and page Salesforce dot web edit of password dot set. I'm giving some junk password. Browser dot page dot web button of login dot click. Okay, so login dot salesforce.com. So what I'm doing is I'm running in Internet Explorer. Apply, save. So it launched the Internet Explorer and it entered the username and it clicked on login button. But since I gave invalid username and password, so it has given the error. That's okay, no problem. Then let me stop the execution, and now what I will do is let me open the Chrome browser this time. Okay, I'm opening the Chrome browser. Okay, so it entered the username. Okay, it did click on this also. Just wait for a while. So the conflict. Wait for a while. This is the button, right? Use object spy. It has got type, submit, log into Salesforce. Okay. Properties have not changed, right? Earlier we used IE8, IE8 in previous we got the error, right? So when we create in IE, it has got one properties, and Chrome it has got different properties. It was in IE8. Okay. So I think properties, not for button only, for login only. It's for login button only. Okay, that is okay, fine. So I couldn't get that, but assume that one of the property maybe actually type property. So one place it was submit and second place it was button. Okay, so it was coming like this. Now assume that only while running in the Chrome browser, then okay, so this type button, the type, okay, or HTML tag submit, whatever it is. So the type is changing to button when I'm running in Chrome browser. But when I'm running in Internet Explorer, so the type is submit only. In Internet Explorer, type is submit, but when I'm running in Chrome browser, it is type is button. So what I need to do is this type property should be updated when I'm running a Chrome browser. When I'm running a Chrome browser, then this type should be updated as button. Just consider that. And now if I go and update it, since the property value is changing, right? So if I directly, when I'm running the Chrome browser, I need to update, this property has to be updated. How we can update that? Open Object Repository Manager and open this repository and click on editable, and then type I will change to button and save it. That will work when I run in the Chrome browser. But again the same thing will be impacted when I run in the Internet Explorer, right? That will be. So what I do is, depends on which browser I am opening, then that time it has to automatically update the property value. Got what I am saying here? Then in that case, what exactly you need to do is, instead of directly updating in the repository, you can do the change through program. Temporarily you do the change based on that situation. So same thing like even in also. So now I have added many of the objects to the repository, maybe a shared repository, and I have associated that shared repository to the script. Like this I have done, same repository has been associated to multiple scripts. But in one of the screen or in one of the script, object properties are different. We realized that in one place object properties or one property is different, has got different value, but that is only in that screen. But in the next scripts and all, it has to be old values only, original values only. So now what I do is, whatever the change that I want to do, that change should be only in that particular script, that should not impact on other scripts. That means that change should not impact on the source. If it is impacting on the source, then it will impact everywhere. But without the impacting on the source, only temporarily, only for this script that has to be modified. Then in that case, what you need to do is, instead of directly updating in the shared repository, we have to update through program. Then how do we do that? How do we update the object property values during runtime for an object which is stored in the repository? Is write down a method called setTo property. Method name is setTo property, no space in between. Okay, method is set TO property. What is meant by TO here? TO stands for test object, the object which is stored in the repository. Okay, so this method is used to update the property value of a test object. Update the property value of a test object during runtime. Update the property value of a test object during runtime. And just write down a small note below. So whatever the change that we made, whatever the changes that we make by using setTo property, that change will be impacted only during runtime. Changes we make using this method, setTo property, those changes will be impacted only during runtime and only for that script. Only for the script. Okay, so now let's see what exactly I do here. For login button, right? And that page dot web button source dot setTo property. So and so button dot setTo property, and syntax is like this. Okay, there are two arguments for this. One is which property you want to change. What is that? Type property. Type is I need to change it as button, but here what it is? It is submit right now. In the original it is submit, but what I am doing is I am changing to, the type is changing to button. I am trying to change. Now I am running the script. So this has been updated now. Open object repository, go to button. Then what is the type now? Button. Earlier it was type, right? It was submit. Type earlier it was submit, and now it is button. Just once you stop the execution, again it is submit. So that is only runtime. Whatever the change you do by using setTo property, right? That is only during runtime. Okay. So like this, you can manage the objects in the repository. You can do update. But if you want to do a permanent change, that is only temporary change, right? If you want to do a permanent change, you cannot do like that. Open the repository manager, open the repository manager and open the repository for which repository you want to do the change, and then do the modifications and save it. That will be a permanent change. But you do through program like this, set your property, then that is a temporary, just a temporary change. Okay. Now there is one more thing here. This is one of the common interview question here. Okay. Now what I have done here, I'm changing type to button. When I have to do that? Only when I'm running in Chrome browser, right? Only when I'm running in Chrome browser. Then how do I understand whether the browser which is opened is a Chrome browser or Internet Explorer or any other browser? To understand that, okay, so whatever the browser is open, right, I'm using object spy. Why object spy? To understand the properties, what properties particular object has got. Now can you see a property called application version? What is that? Chrome 44.0 or version. Then similarly, when I open Internet Explorer, so there is, for a browser, there is a property called application version. Okay, so this application version or version, this property will tell you which browser it is. Which browser it is. Okay, so now what I have to do is, after opening the browser, whatever the browser that it is launched, after opening the browser, from the browser which is opened, I need to retrieve the property value of application version. From the browser, I need to retrieve the value of application version, value of application version property. You got? Now from where I need to retrieve? The object which is displayed, right, during runtime. Not from the object which is stored in the repository. The object which is really opened from that. That object is called as runtime object. The object which is stored in the repository, we call it as test object. But now I need to take the value from the object which is really opened, or the object which is there inside the application or the browser, also a runtime object. Now what exactly I need to do? I need to retrieve a value from a property, not only application version, tomorrow it could be a different property for different validations. I need to retrieve a value from a property of a runtime object. Okay, then how do you do that? Write down another method. Write down another method called getRoProperty. GetRoProperty. No space in between. RO stands for runtime here. So this method is used to retrieve a property value of a runtime object. This method is used to retrieve a property value of a runtime object. Now, how this has to be done exactly is, see, what I will do is get version equals to browser. From this browser I need to retrieve the version, right, from browser object, dot get RO property of, what is the property? Application version. I'm just displaying it for you. If instr of get version, I'm using Chrome, or to make it as, you know what I'm doing, 4 arguments I'm passing. Last one is doing a text comparison mode. Okay, so if instr of get version, that means if the version whatever I am retrieving, if that version contains Chrome, because I cannot give exactly equal to, because it is Google Chrome 44 now, tomorrow it could be 44.1 or it could be 45, something like that. So that's the reason, in case if the Chrome is available in that version, Chrome text is available, if not equals to 0, then update this. Now let me run that. Okay. Type is submit for now, so still it is not executed. So it says Chrome 44.0 resources object repository. Type is changed to button because I opened the Chrome browser. Let me stop the execution. So this time what I will do is I will launch the Internet Explorer. So when I launch the Internet Explorer, it should not change the value. It has to be old value only. Submit. Submit only. Now it says Internet Explorer. It remains submit only. It's not changing. So like this, you can change the property values. So depends on certain situation, property value need to be updated. Not in all the situations. So that means only temporarily, only for that situation, property has to be updated for a test object. So in that case, you can use setTO property. So execute that setTO property only on this condition. Okay. So this is how we manage the objects in the repository. Okay. So tomorrow, what we will do is we will understand the object identification concept. So now, okay, today while managing, right, so we saw some creation time property and some other properties, and if you see that, okay, there are a lot of properties available for the object, but only few properties we are using. Why we are not using other properties? There are certain other levels called here there is something called a visual relational identifier, or there is something called smart identification. What and all these things? Tomorrow we will understand that. Okay, clear, right? Whatever we have discussed today, yeah? The merging and conflicts and setTO property. Fine.
To learn more about adding and customizing zoom and pan animations to your video, check out the other Getting Started tutorials on our website. We've talked about some of the tabs already, but be sure to explore the others for adding and editing special effects. If they don't all show up as tabs, click on the More tab to explore others, like the speech-to-text capabilities and captions, and the improved quizzing. Also, transitions can now be dragged directly to the timeline and added on top of clips. So we've shown a few ways you can navigate and edit your video, but how do you get content into your video? To make a new screen recording, click the Record the Screen button. If you already have an audio or video recording you'd like to use, click the Import Media button. When you're done with your video project, you'll need to click the Produce and Share button to create a shareable video. Expand this menu to see a variety of presets. We have a new video player that plays back your MP4 video and includes other interactive features like table of contents, closed captions, quizzes, and even hotspots. These features are available when hosting your video on TechSmithScreencast.com or the video and player on your own web server. This player provides playback on multiple devices with just one video, whether it's a phone, tablet, laptop, or desktop computer. Well, it's time for you to try Camtasia Studio for yourself using the content on the timeline, or better yet, create your own. We have lots of free tutorials on our website, and I recommend you begin with the Getting Started series. Also, the help file inside Camtasia Studio tells you how to use each of the Camtasia Studio features and applications. One last thing, if you ever want to open this Getting Started project again to view or practice with, use this link here. Thanks for watching, and we hope you enjoy Camtasia Studio.